Welcome to the Testing Security Protocol and Procedures for School Personnel online training video. This training will encompass information found in the Testing Security Protocol and Procedures for School Personnel publication. This training video will include the following topics: purpose, secure testing practices, test preparation, roles and responsibilities, and the testing code of ethics. A copy of the Testing Security Guide can be obtained through your school's test coordinator or online via the North Carolina Department of Public Instruction's website. The purpose of the annual testing program is threefold. First, assuring all high school graduates have the minimum skills necessary to function in society. Second, providing a means of identifying strengths and weaknesses in the education process in order to improve instructional delivery. And third, establishing additional means for making the education system at the state, local, and school levels accountable to the public for results. In this section, we will review information about secure testing practices. Secure testing practices begin with maintaining test security. Test blueprints, test layout forms, item pools, operational and field test books, test questions, and test book sections are all secure test materials. These materials must not be copied or reproduced in any manner. Paraphrased, filing, or using the content in secure test materials as the basis for any instructional materials, such as review sheets or test preparation, is not allowed. The contents of secure test materials must not be disclosed in any post to the internet or social media. Secure test materials include testing content in either an electronic or paper format. The Testing Code of Ethics is a North Carolina administrative rule which outlines ethical testing practices for each individual participating in state testing, including central office staff, school administrators, test coordinators, test administrators, and proctors. Ethical testing practices include informing students about the tests and why they are important, informing students and parents about how tests and test results will be used, preparing students to take the tests, ensuring all eligible students take the tests, encouraging students to attempt to respond to all test questions and do their best, and sharing the results of the test with students and parents within the allotted timelines. The North Carolina Administrative Codes, as outlined on this slide, state that secure tests as developed by the state of North Carolina as part of the annual testing program shall not be used for purposes other than to measure reading proficiency at the beginning of grade 3, end of grade progress for grades 3 through 8, end of course competencies, and competencies in English, mathematics, reading, and science at the end of grade 11 as tested in the ACT, and competencies in mathematics, reading, and information location at the end of grade 12 as tested in ACT work keys. Public school units are required to use a secure platform to access online state-mandated tests. Locally stored offline content must be cleared or secured after accessing the test. Schools permitting use of devices not owned or leased by the public school unit must monitor device use, install and uninstall programs or apps for testing, security, and monitoring, and secure the devices for close inspection before and after testing. Best practices for password protection include never sharing passwords, if written down, keep in a secure place, change passwords when compromised, and do not allow a device to save, remember, or autofill a password since this poses a security threat. The next section of this training will focus on test preparation. Most state-mandated tests have corresponding release test forms made available by the annual testing program. These release forms are designed to reflect the current content standards, which are the basis for student instruction at a grade level or course. Once the new released form is made public, previous versions of release forms, aligned to older content standards, are retired and no longer available to the public. These are available via the NCDPI website. The North Carolina Administrative Code outlined on the screen states that LEAs shall provide information to students, parents, or guardians, advising them of district-wide and state-mandated tests that are required throughout the school year, including the dates of the tests. Similarly, LEAs shall report scores resulting from state-mandated tests to students, parents, and guardians no later than 30 days after the test is administered. This also includes any score interpretation information. All state-mandated tests must be administered on the designated test date or during the testing window. This information is outlined in the North Carolina Operational Testing Calendar available on the NCDPI website. Also, failing to administer the secure test on the test date or during the testing window designated by the annual testing program results in a testing irregularity. Test materials must be distributed immediately before each test administration and returned at the end of each test administration. Test administrators are responsible for all materials in their care. Proctors may not be alone with secure test materials. Test materials may not be distributed to students before the beginning of the test administration. All secure test materials must be accounted for at all times. Public school units are responsible for accounting to the NCDPI for all tests received, providing a locked storage area for all tests received, prohibiting the reproduction of all or any part of the tests, and prohibiting employees from disclosing the general or specific content in the tests. The principal is responsible for accounting for all test materials received, ensuring test security within the school building, storing test materials in a secure, locked facility except when in use, and establishing procedures to have test materials distributed immediately before each test administration and to return test materials to the school test coordinator at the end of each test administration. School test coordinators are responsible for maintaining test security and accountability of test materials at all levels of distribution. School test coordinators should have a well-developed check-in and check-out process to ensure materials are accounted for at all times. Any discrepancies in the count of materials must be documented and reported immediately. Test administrators are responsible for counting and recording the number of secure test and supplemental materials at all levels of distribution. Any discrepancies in the counts must immediately be reported to the school test coordinator. The test administrator must count and verify with the school test coordinator that the number of secure materials returned matches the initial count of materials received. Test administrators must report any alleged testing violation or testing irregularity to the school test coordinator on the day of the occurrence. The use of prohibited items in the testing room may constitute a misadministration, irregularity, or violation of the testing code of ethics. On days before testing, teachers are expected to announce to students which items cannot be accessed in the testing room. The following items are not permitted for use during testing, including breaks, electronic devices, personal belongings, and testing aids. Some examples are outlined on the slide. Irregularities may arise for any of the following categories: eligibility, accommodation, security, monitoring, procedural, and technical. The testing environment for students should be designated by the school principal. All rooms designated for testing should be quiet, orderly, comfortable, have adequate seating, lighting, and heating or cooling. Each student should have enough space in which to work, and seating should be arranged to discourage students from sharing responses. During testing, test administrators are expected to monitor students. Test administrators must monitor all students as they test, answer questions about the functionality of online testing tools, and read the test directions as they are written. Test administrators must not indicate answers in any way, rephrase or translate test questions, and are not permitted to explain the meaning of any unknown words. During testing, proctors are to assist in taking students to the restroom, alert the test coordinator at the request of the test administrator, and help monitor students in the test session. Proctors are not permitted to indicate answers in any way, read questions to students, and are unable to provide any help during testing. Each test administration should follow a uniform process for administration. The test administration guide explains exactly what the test administrator should do during testing. Test administrators who are testing students who receive accommodations must be trained on how to conduct a test administration session with students who require accommodations. Training must occur each testing cycle for test administrators, proctors, if utilized, and any other appropriate personnel. Makeup testing is to occur for any student absent from a test administration. The Public School Unit Test Coordinator will specify how makeup tests will be handled, including the dates and times for makeups. Effective with the 2023-2024 school year, answer sheets will no longer be used for paper test administrations. All students with a documented need for a paper format will mark their answers in the test book. When testing is complete, the test administrator or principal's designee will transcribe the student's answers from the test book to the online testing system for the appropriate online test. Additional information about the transcription process can be found in each test administration guide. Test administrators must follow local procedures for the return of all test books to the school test coordinator immediately after the test administration. The Public School Unit Test Coordinator establishes the schedule for returning test books with student answers marked to technical outreach for public schools. For processing online administrations, schools must meet specific technical requirements, which should be reviewed days before the test. Locally stored offline content must be cleared or secured after the test. And after students complete an online test, the test administrator or designated school personnel must complete the online required codes in the testing system. The general statute outlined on this slide refers to obtaining academic credit by fraudulent means. It shall be unlawful for any person, firm, corporation, or association to assist any student or advertise, offer, or attempt to assist any student in obtaining or in attempting to obtain by fraudulent means any academic credit, grade or test score, or any diploma, certificate, or other instrument purporting to confer any literary, scientific, professional, technical, or other degree in any course of study in any university, college, academy, or other educational institution. The activity prohibited by this subsection includes, but is not limited to, preparing or advertising, offering or attempting to prepare a term paper, thesis, or dissertation for another, impersonating or advertising, offering or attempting to impersonate another in taking or attempting to take an examination, and the giving or changing of a grade or test score or offering to give or change a grade or test score in exchange for an article of value or money. As seen on the screen, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act, known as FERPA, secure the confidentiality rights of students. It is a best practice not to publicly post or announce student names and test results. The next section covered in this video refers to the roles and responsibilities of the school counselor, the test administrator, and the proctor. Duties of the school counselor include the following. Counselors shall spend at least 80% of their work time providing direct services to students. Although school counselors may assist other staff with the coordination of standardized testing, the school counseling program does not permit the school counselor in coordinating standardized testing for the school. The public school unit is to determine how school counselors will assist with testing. This information does not apply to charter, lab, or restart schools. Test administrators have many duties during testing. Test administrators should prepare for and attend test administrator training before each test administration, and training related to students with disabilities and students identified as English learners. A test administrator confidentiality and test security agreement must be signed and kept on file at the school prior to administering a test. The test administration guide, student directions, and the testing code of ethics should be reviewed before test day. Test administrators must maintain test security at all times. Distribution procedures should be followed to ensure all materials are accounted for before and after testing. Test administrators should never share usernames or passwords. Each student must have access to the appropriate test materials. Students' personal belongings are not accessed during testing, including cell phones. Before the administration, the test administrator must confirm the student's information is correctly displayed on the screen. Lastly, the directions must be read to the students as written in the test administration guide. Some other duties of the test administrator include being present during the entire test administration, monitoring the test administration session, and refraining from modifying, changing, or altering student responses. Test administrators are to assist with emergencies, provide a positive test-taking environment, follow locally established procedures, and report any testing irregularities to the school test coordinator. It is a local decision as to whether proctors will be used for state-mandated non-vendor testing. For vendor-made assessments, the test coordinator must ensure the proctor guidelines from the test publisher are followed. The principal should be responsible for selecting proctors. The proctor can be a one-on-one proctor, a full-time proctor, or a roving proctor. Proctors should not be assigned to a test session where his or her relative or ward is to be tested. Similarly, proctors should not be assigned to a room with a personal family member or close acquaintance. Students should be informed before test day that a proctor may be assisting with monitoring. Proctors must attend proctor training before the test administration in order to understand and agree to carry out the described duties. Proctors must sign a proctor confidentiality and test security agreement. As mentioned earlier, the Testing Code of Ethics is a North Carolina administrative rule, which outlines ethical testing practices for each individual participating in state testing, including central office staff, school administrators, test coordinators, test administrators, and proctors. Teachers and administrators must conduct testing in a fair and ethical manner, which includes security, preparation, administration, scoring, analysis, and reporting. As part of this video, the Testing Code of Ethics should be reviewed in its entirety. The Testing Code of Ethics may be accessed through the NCDPI website, obtaining a copy of the Testing Security Protocol and Procedures for School Personnel publication, or by asking the school test coordinator for a copy. This concludes the annual testing program's Testing Security Protocol and Procedures for School Personnel online training video. Please be sure to reach out to the school test coordinator if you have any questions regarding your responsibilities or any local procedures.